Hello, everyone. Thanks for clicking on today's video. My name is Sissy, and I love arts and crafts and sharing my silly thoughts on random things. Sometimes the week just gets away from me, and I have a crazy time trying to get everything done. Tasks pile up, commitments take precedence, and I get a little overwhelmed. I also feel like I am behind on things when I don't have, for example, several videos prepared and ready to go. So it's been a little crazy, and I've felt a little stressed. I shouldn't complain though, because it's been a good, crazy, month, really, even more than a week. I've had a lot of orders for men's shirts lately, so I've been working on cranking those out, and it's been very good for business. So, because I've been busy with the shirts as well as family events, for which I'm very happy to be part of, I pulled from my pile of to do crafts and worked on another diamond painting for today's background. I know I know what I said the last time I worked on a diamond painting and felt bad about the plastics. I do feel like a hypocrite, and I am sorry. I had this in my craft bin, so I did it. I hate to admit it, but it really is relaxing as I can get lost in thought as I stick the little plastic diamonds into place and make a pretty pixelated looking picture. Especially when I do have weeks and months like February was, I am reminded of why I enjoy doing silly little crafts because they are relaxing and soothing and makes me feel better overall. So, despite the fact that I feel guilt for doing such a project, here is another diamond painting video and the pictures of a tranquil mountain waterfall. It's quite pretty, I think. Today's topic kind of connects to the series I just did on road trips and on an RV, and this time I'm talking about flying on airplanes. To bounce off of my last series of RV road trips, I started thinking about the flights I've taken over the years, as flying on an airplane is not dissimilar to a long or short car ride. There are diminutive bathrooms that can get stinky early on in the voyage, and you feel like you're fighting with everyone else to use because, like you, they too waited till the very last second to go since we all thought we could hold it until our destination. Because let's face it, who wants to be sitting on a bumpy ride, airplane or RV, and trying to inconvenience those around you by getting up and awkwardly making your way up to the lavatory only to discover it's occupied and the flight attendant, or your parent in the RV, asks you to sit down and wait your turn. Then there are the seats. Now, I do believe a seat in an RV, even a bench seat at the table, is far more comfortable than an airplane seat. You can stretch your legs out more, you can move around the cabin of the RV a little bit better without upsetting anyone around you. Even if you are sitting in an aisle seat, it can be a nuisance for others. And it's so much easier, I feel like, to hold like a book or a game or some knitting or something in your lap in an RV than on an airplane. Also, you typically know who else you're riding with in an RV than on an airplane. And as an introverted person, I would usually request to sit the window. Not necessarily because I can look out, but more so that I don't interrupt others. I was one who did my very best to not get up during a flight, no matter the length, which might not be best for circulation. And so that I come off as not particularly friendly and definitely don't want someone to strike up a conversation with me. Don't get me wrong, I'm polite, but my social anxiety kicks in to hyperdrive, and I'm just not in the mood to make friends on a flight. Another thing that is similar between an airplane and an RV are the smells. Look, a fair amount of people in a relatively small, confined space will produce smells no matter how clean one is, no matter how often air freshener is sprayed, whatever smells will occur. It's just a part of the journey, right? My first airplane ride happened when I was 9 months old, and I've been flying ever since. Because of that, I've rarely been anxious when it comes to flying, and I actually enjoy it. I do get anxious before I board my plane because I am the type to worry about getting on board on time, but ask my husband, I'm literally the same no matter what the form of transportation or vacation destination is, whether it's plane, train, automobile, or cruise ship. I will say I'm not a fan of turbulence or takeoff and landing either. I've always had trouble with my ears, and they will not pop, even when I chew gum at takeoff and landing to try to relieve the pressure, so my ears hurt for a while when the pressure changes. And as far as the turbulence goes, I've never enjoyed major roller coasters because I do not like. You know when you drop from a high spot in a coaster and it feels like your stomach is dropping out of your body? I feel like that with turbulence. Plus, I have motion sickness, so there's that. In fact, I'm going on a cruise this summer and I get pretty severe motion sickness. Sorry, slight tangent here. And I don't like taking medication because it just knocks me out. I miss out on activities, and when I wake up again, I just feel sick again. My last trip, I ate apples per my mother's advice, and that did help. But I bought these bands that are supposed to put pressure on specific points on the wrist to relieve motion sickness. So I'm excited to try them on our next cruise, and hopefully they'll work. Have any of you tried anything like that? And like, what do you do if you have bad motion sickness? Anyway, back to the airplanes. I remember when I was a kid, pre 9/11, when I'd get on the airplane and the flight attendants would let us kids go into the cockpit, meet the pilots who would show us all the bells and whistles, and then they would give us wings that we could pin. And then later on, they basically turned into stickers onto our clothes, making us honorary pilots, and we thought we were so cool. We used to get coloring books and crayons to distract us on flights. Of course, this was before handheld video games and smartphones, and the snacks were awesome. The magic does seem to die a bit every time I fly now, but maybe it's because I'm older and wiser and you don't get the fun perks anymore. If I can, I try hard to fly Southwest Airlines for a couple of reasons. One, they seem to be one of the last airlines where I don't have to pay for my luggage. And two, and most importantly, the snacks. I can still get a snack on Southwest. It's not as great as the snacks used to be, and if you don't have your drink order ready to go, the flight attendant is done with you and they're on to the next person/row. Fair enough, I get it. Speaking of 2001, I remember my first flight post 9/11 and how dramatically different things were. I don't remember TSA as much from when I was a kid, but I do remember how security was incredibly tightened up afterward. I do remember when I was a kid that my grandparents used to come and meet us at the airport, walk right up to the gate to either greet us or see us off, and I know you can't do that anymore. There was a little airport in my hometown, and my dad would fly a lot for work. So my mom at the time only one brother and I would go right up to the gate window and plant our faces on the glass and watch the airplane taxi into the gate. And we'd excitedly hear my mom say, "That's Daddy's plane." I just think about how kids these days can't do those fun activities anymore, and it makes me kind of get that nostalgic sadness. You know what I mean? Honestly, I understand the changes made over the years, and it makes so much sense in terms of making flying safe for everyone. So I'm not complaining. It's just interesting to think about the differences. The longest flight I've ever taken was when my family had to fly to the Middle East for my dad's work. I was 7 years old, I had one brother at the time, and my mother was 7 months pregnant with my second brother. From our home, it was a 6 hour flight across the country to the East Coast, then another 8 hours to a layover in Germany, and finally another 5 hours to get to our destination. Now, I know a lot of people have flown so much longer for much longer flights, and I applaud you. As much as I enjoy a good flight, I vividly remember those flights for a number of reasons. First of all, on the way out and back for the long hauls, we rode on double decker airplanes. I don't know what Boeing number those are, but yeah. And that's been the only time I've ever ridden on a double decker airplane, which is pretty cool. I don't even know if they still do those anymore, do they? Please remember too that I was 7 at the time, so this was all incredibly cool to me then. So I don't know if they're still cool anymore. Both ways, for some reason, my brother and I were the only kids on board. So I remember a lovely flight attendant took us upstairs to tour it, and I just remember seeing a bar. I don't remember if there was anything else upstairs. I do know we weren't technically allowed as it was for first class only, but she was so sweet to give us a tour, and that was pretty cool. I do remember that there was a giant screen TV that took up the wall that separated economy from business and first classes, and they played movies, though my mom tried to distract us with activities because they weren't movies we were allowed to watch. I remember it was hard to look away though because the screen was so big. I remember the return flight more because back in those days, people could smoke on the airplanes. There were smoking sections, but you could still smell the smoke. And I remember my mom hyperventilated at one point because the smoke was really getting to her. And I don't think being pregnant helps either. I remember looking at the panic on the flight attendant's face because I'm pretty sure she was running through delivering a baby procedures in her head and she was not prepared, poor thing. We all made it though. And although all of us were happy to be home, my mom was especially happy to be home. And my brother was born soon after, happy and healthy. I don't know if I could do a flight that long nowadays, though I still want to travel the world, and flying is still one of the most straightforward ways of getting somewhere. At the very least, if I do a long flight soon, I will have to come prepared with compression socks, chewing gum, and a lot of water, but not too much so I don't have to use the lavatory too many times. I had a friend who recently went on a flight and they flew all the way to Japan, which was an incredibly long flight. And I remember them saying that it was not an easy one. For me, flying is another super fun way to travel, but as much as I like to fly, and especially when you think about how humans are these ridiculously tiny things in a relatively small metal barrel being held up by wind drafts 30,000 feet above the ground, I still think I prefer RV trips. Anyway, I would love to hear about your flying adventures. Have you ever flown and do you enjoy flying? What is the longest airplane ride you've ever done, and what did you do to prepare? I'd love to hear your stories. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you again soon.